And we're live to review the episode in the title. Over to Jeff.
Oh, wow. I'm on. Well, I'll answer Morgan's question in my description. This is Homicide Life on the Street, Season 7, Episode 6. Wanted, Dead or Alive, Part 1. Written by James Yoshimura, directed by Robert Harmon, and originally aired November 13th, 1998. And I will read a brief description from TV.com and then have Ben share his thoughts on the episode. And then we'll get mine and possibly someone else's review. So, bounty hunters shoot, killing the wrong man as they enter a building where their fugitive, a man named Joe Errico, has shot at them and subsequently gotten away. Guardi has vague memories of a drinking binge from the night before. Falzone and Stivers catch the bounty hunter case. Shepard, during her days with the fugitive squad, had dealings with the head bounty hunter. Gaffney stops G and Mike G on their way in. Baltimore Magazine wants to do a father and son piece using the wine case as a focal point. G is not interested, especially about the use of the wine case. Guardi struggles as he tries to reconstruct the events of the night before. Munch is bothered by Guardi's stories of Vietnam, and each grows to dislike the other. Perhaps some competitiveness over Billy Lou is beginning to brew here as well. Bounty hunter P.J. Johnson, who was identified as the triggerman, is charged and placed in one of the holding cells near some of his previously captured quarry. Within an hour, his bail is posted. Ironically, the next day, he jumps bail. The other bounty hunters join with the homicide detectives in their attempt to locate the original target, Joe Errico, whom they suspect P.J. is still going after. When Mike and and Meldrick and bounty hunter Lichty, I forgot what his actual name was, so I'm not sure how to pronounce that, are in pursuit of the suspects. They collide with an elderly couple. PJ stops his pursuit to offer assistance as Errico gets away. Lewis appears to be critically injured. So that's the gist of the episode. Ben, what you think?
I think that I like this episode. I like the premise of you've got this. You just saw there that was Lewis's reaction shot to learning that the bounty hunters get 85,000 a year, and he gets probably about 30,000. And so the main thrust of the plot was interesting about the bounty hunters. It had an interesting. It set up an interesting confrontation between the guy who was the head of the bounty hunters and G, and then G's values coming through about how maybe he sees them as outside of the system, and certainly he sees them as the bounty hunters are doing it for the wrong reason. He thinks they're all in it for the cash, and that they're not doing it for the same reason that he is doing it. That he's doing it as like to serve and protect, as part of the police, that kind of thing. And then the subplot with, well, maybe not even subplot, the separate plot with Guardi versus Munch about the Vietnam War. I think that was very good as well, and sort of like showing it from both sides. And also it made Munch look a little bit like, showed him not such a good light the way he was. But it all depends on, I get the impression the way it was played by Peter Garrity, I think that's his name, the actor playing Garty, that maybe what he says was true by the way he played it, but I've not seen the rest of the episodes to know whether he is lying or not. What do you think, Jeff?
You've seen the other episode, so...
You mean of the whole episode, or that specific one?
Yeah, the whole episode.
Oh, okay. I like it overall. I think it was entertaining. There was a couple of things I had a problem with it, but they're not so bad that it makes me dislike the episode. Overall, I thought it was well paced, and I liked a lot of the interactions. I have the same quibbles with some of these later season episodes where they spend a little too much time on the newer characters that I don't care about as much, but that's just kind of a continuing thing, so I can't really fault the individual episode for that. I did think the idea that this one bounty hunter dude would be so well known that just putting him in like a holding cell, like everybody in there would know who he was, that was a little bit cheesy. Because, Baltimore's a big city, and and it's just a little, and that they would immediately recognize him is a little bit unrealistic to me. So that, I think they put that in there to kind of add the tension of that. And I didn't have a problem with the line saying that something about somebody's going to recognize you, but they didn't need to actually have the scene where they showed that, where they had somebody yelling in the background, "Hey, I know you," or whatever. Like, that was a little bit unnecessary. I thought it would have been better without that. Trying to think, there was something else I was going to say that I thought was a flaw in it, but now I'm kind of going blank as to what I was going to say. But maybe it'll come to me in the course of us talking about other things. Maybe I should look at the pictures you're showing. Maybe that'll remind me of something, because I was just looking at my screen. But one thing I note about Chris Maloney, who plays the main bounty hunter dude, he of course is now better known for being one of the main stars of Law and Order SVU. So he would go on to work with Richard Belzer on that, but however, not playing the same character, playing a detective rather than a bounty hunter. That's one note on the guest star.
Yeah, I thought it was quite good. Didn't let anyone down. I thought the woman was okay as well, but played the sort of like the drug addict wife.
Oh yeah, I thought she was good.
That can be one of those things that can be easily overplayed because you're playing someone in such a tense situation.
Yeah. So she was good, and I thought the interaction with Munch and Bayless was good in this episode. We've had a little bit of that before, but since they've sort of partnered up, we've had a little bit more opportunity to have some of the, they're not quite Munch and Bolander, but you still do have a little bit of that NTSJ clashing going on at the same time. So you have a little bit of the same dynamic, even though it's somewhat different. But the funny thing is that one of the things Munch rags on Bayless for, you can almost see it maybe being sort of the opposite. That normally it would be the Guardian that would be on the intuitive for talking too much about like Buddhism and stuff like that. So if anything, it might be like Munch is sort of he's being one-upped in a way. Like he's supposed to be the philosophical one, and meanwhile this dude is out philosophizing him. Maybe he's a little bit jealous.
Yeah, because NTs can't take it when it's like if people go too NF on them.
Yeah, he's kind of looking at it like that's his role, is to be the guy who brings up not necessarily Buddhism, but like looking at things from like a philosophical angle. So he's kind of like, who is this dime store philosopher here?
Yeah, and it's also a bit of like talking about values and things, and ENTP is like, don't talk about values and stuff. That's neither here nor there, because they got a similar, very weak introverted feeling. But we won't talk about functions in ENTPs.
Or just feeling in general, like because Bayless is an ISFJ, I think, and so it's a combination of feeling and like the Guardian temperament. So the combination of sort of the traditional value type kind of looking at things, but also Bayless sort of having this other sort of philosophical side pop up, but not in the way that Munch does. So it's like he's not down with it exactly.
Yeah, and it's also something that's a particular event that was only really, what, about 25 years prior? So it's like about the same distance from us as like the early 90s to us now. So in terms of the Vietnam War.
Now? Oh, Vietnam War, yeah. Yeah, that's a whole different thing, and I liked a lot. I actually liked the sort of conflict, because we haven't really had a...
It was one of the best character conflicts for a while.
Yeah, we haven't had that kind of thing going on between the detectives like that, where they almost sort of are ready to come to blows over it. Well, although we had one previous scene with Munch and Guardi over the case about the basketball player, so there was already a little bit of tension on that. But in the previous season, in the Blood Ties episodes, when Guardi and Pembleton kind of were going at it about the way that he was handling the James Earl Jones character, the entrepreneur guy, that kind of led them to some tension. And so it's kind of similar to that, in that you have something that's not as much about either one of them's individual values as it is just sort of the larger conflict that gets brought up in the middle of it. So it's sort of like, Guardi is taking it as like, this guy's like insulting my honor kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Munch is looking at it as, this guy represents a concept I don't agree with.
Yeah.
So Munch, and that's my experience with the NTPs, is they tend to view things that way. It's really not as much personal. It's not about Guardi himself. It's about that guy, that type he's seeing him as the Vietnam guy who's like bragging about how he was like a hero or something, even though Guardi never said he was a hero. But he's sort of typecasting him in that role and using him as a focal point for that.
Yeah, and he might be thinking that all these other guys come back from wars and they get treated like heroes. I come back and I get treated like shit.
Yeah. And so, it's like, it's obviously not the first time Guardi has probably heard somebody talk like that, but he's viewing it a little bit more personally, I think, where, it's like his problem is with Munch specifically.
Yeah.
And, he's ready to, like, come to blows with him because he's like, this guy is, like, challenging me, in my reputation or whatever, rather than it being just about some blowhard kind of ranting about Vietnam or whatever. Like, if it was not as personal to him, he probably wouldn't be as pissed off about it. He would just kind of be like, that's just some, hippie dude or whatever,
And in that confrontation before that Jeff mentions, folks, is where, like, Guardi was asking Munch, like, give me your best shot. And Munch, like, picked up an ashtray and was going to really clobber him with it. That's what it appeared to be. I don't know. But that was a little bit... Because Munch was really... had a strong connection with the guy that killed the basketball player because he had been bullied so much.
Right.
So... and I just so what I can ask, is that visited? So do we actually find out in future episodes about Gart's experience in Vietnam, about whether he's making it up or not, or whether it was true? Because
you really want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be surprised?
Let him be surprised. Don't talk about it.
Okay.
All I'll say is, all I will say, I'll say you will get more information on it. I'll just say.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it won't be like a one-time thing in this episode. I'll put that.
Right. And I did like the concept of the episode in that it's almost like the rules of engagement, how the bounty hunters are, and you can sort of see G's point of view, whereas, like, look, these are almost like mercenaries. These are not proper officers. These, so do you think that is, like, consistent with G's temperament, Jeff? Like his approach to them?
Yeah, because, he's not really seeing much of the positive aspect of it, because even though it's another form of law and order, it's not like what he views as the proper way to do it. So he's seeing them as these kind of vigilante types, and he in general he's not really doesn't like that type of person, but he can work with them, and does, as we see him do in this episode. And the thing I was struck by is that even like those pictures of the main bounty hunter dude, how much he reminded me of Kellerman, even in like the mannerisms and stuff. And I was like, there might be a part of G that kind of, even if he didn't specifically think of him as an extension of Kellerman, he's still like, I just got done dealing with a dude like you,
Yeah.
I now I got to do it again with this guy, So and not like Kellerman was the first, person he's encountered like that, but it, that definitely struck me as that guy, again, probably another ESTP, because he's, his attitude is very much, look, I do this job, I get the job done. It doesn't matter what methods I use to do it, whether you like them or not. I achieve the goal. That's the important thing, And obviously, you can tell he enjoys it. So
what
he takes a certain satisfaction out of accomplishing his missions. So
what I might do is create a sort of like a collage where it's like I need to get this reaction from Lewis in, but also I want to get that on and maybe a bit of that as well. Maybe like a combo image.
Yeah, there's especially the picture you had with where he's sitting down. So I think it was earlier than this, where he's I think when he was talking to Stivers, that look really reminded. Yeah, it was right before that. Yeah, that one. Like that one, it really seems like a Kellerman look in terms of his mannerism, the way he's kind of looking at him. Like, I don't really have patience for this, but I'm going through the motions anyway because you want me to. But it's like it's a very kind of dismissive look. Like, I don't really need to be here. It's kind of silly that I am, kind of thing. That struck me.
I think he's going to be like one of these examples of, and he talked about having a master's degree, and and we talked about Kellerman and his brothers of like the high functioning ESTP. It's like the top level ESTP, at least in terms of their career.
Somebody who is accomplished and smart and good at what he does. So he has. He doesn't have a whole lot of tolerance for having to deal with stuff that kind of gets in his way. But in this episode, at least, he comes across as having slightly more than G does, because G's holding more to a, like you said, this is the proper way to do something, and he's going outside that. Whereas the bounty hunter is still looking at it like, I can work with this guy because we're both trying to achieve the same thing in general. And so
also the way
he's a little bit more tolerant and willing to work with him than the other way around.
And he also was like able to hold his nerve and be very cool, even whilst G has got him in this position.
Yeah, that's what I say. You get the feeling it's not the first time somebody's talked to him that way. So he's got some experience with that. And he's like, it's not going to do me any good to fly off the handle in return.
And I think part of that will come across just like through the ability of the actor to like just give that impression and convey that sort of strength.
Mm-hmm.
Really eyeballing and him not being intimidated, even though he's being held up. Right. Don't know if I've got anything else to say.
Yeah, I should have written something down, but it's because I didn't rewatch it this weekend. I watched it last weekend, so it's not as fresh in my memory. So, but we got, the episode for next time is continuing the same story, so it may come to be next week when I'm talking about that one. So.
Yeah, it was nice to get a bit of Shiner in.
Yeah, yeah.
And we got Walt McPherson, and we got a little bit of him like trying to create a bit of discord between the two Gs.
Yeah. Oh, that was another funny thing. Reminds me that the discussions about food. Again, I like those little details that they add in, like the real cops would talk about. It's not just glossed over. Like you had the discussion between Guardi and Mike about where they were going to eat, and then Bayless is going to the vegetarian place, and so all those interactions about the food, I liked those little things.
Yeah, and then there was that thing where Walt McPherson's character, that he wanted Lewis to salute him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, it just has those little bits of I'm going to assert my authority because I can, and maybe still some, you know, some of that still some racially motivated thing also, you know, that he probably wouldn't have done it to a white detective. Wants to remind the black dude who's in charge.
I remember I don't think he ever liked Lewis. I think he's had previous annoyances with Lewis.
Maybe so. I don't remember anything specific, but I think, I mean, he talked about him being like sloppy or whatever, but I think he was sort of talking in general about him. I think him and Kellerman, because then they had the deal about the case with the woman that escaped and killed the other person. That he came down on both of them for that. But.
Yeah, this was this weird moment when Falzone asked Stivers something about flat-chested women.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said something, what am I, the Kinsey report? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, well, that is a bit of a, like, let's say, a bit of a risky question to ask, so shall we say.
Well, it's a dumb question to ask.
Yeah.
Just because he's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was just that it was like a subtle joke. He was trying to like, he was just trying to say like Ballard's got bigger boobs than you. Like that was the entire point of him saying that. Like, or you know, whether it was an awkward joke or whether he really was just talking about the fact they discussed it.
I mean, I can imagine some women just slapping him right across the face.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, was that what he was trying to do? Where like he was just trying to mess with her and be like, so what do you think? Since you're a flat-chested woman, what do you think about, you know, like that was the whole thing he was trying to like.
And like she's helped him out a lot, really, with her advice. So yeah, so I'd give this one. I think I'd give this one about 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I would too. You know, it was solid episode and had some things that make it, you know, decently exciting. I liked the opening. I think maybe what I was going to say the flaw of the episode is I think it would have been better if they didn't show exactly what happened at the beginning. And I know at the time they were probably trying to increase the ratings by having like a shootout scene. But I think it almost would have been better if like maybe you just heard the shots, but you didn't actually see it happen. So that way the audience doesn't actually know who's telling the truth for sure or not. Also, that maybe there's that extra sort of suspicion that the bounty hunters could be making up the story, or you know, that what she said about like Trevor said about dropping the shell casing, you know, that could have been the case. So you don't really know one way or the other.
Also,
I always like added elements of mystery. That's just me. It just, to me, it always makes something better when you make something a little bit, you know. We had that discussion last season when we talked about the episode where the female cop, you know, came in and shot up the Chinese restaurant.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm a racist because I can't tell the difference. But anyway, but you know, the fact that from the beginning, even though they didn't show her do it at the beginning, you basically knew who the killer was, and all the stuff was sort of revealed at the beginning. Like, you know, they didn't bother to take the cop's badge, so they knew he was a cop. They didn't take his gun, you know, things like that. You know, that if there had been a little bit more mystery, it would have been a better episode.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like this could have been even better. You know, could have gone up to probably a 9 if they had made that beginning part a little bit more mysterious instead of just showing you exactly what happened. But
I find the characters more relatable when it shows you exactly what happened like that. Because then when he's talking, when he's like defending himself, I can like relate to him more. Because you know he's telling the truth, and he's, you know, you can see more of his character like that.
I look at it as
something else to the story. I understand that adding mystery is adding another element to the story,
Yeah,
so, like without that, if they don't do anything else cool, then yeah, it's like okay, you might as well have made it a mystery.
I prefer the story be told from the perspective of the detectives trying to figure out what happened. That's always more interesting to me than showing you what happened and then having there be like characters where you're like trying to relate to this guy and stuff. It's that he's still an interesting character regardless of what.
Just don't like relating to people.
No, I do, but. That's just my perspective.
You just hate bounty hunters. I see how
no,
it is.
No, I don't hate bounty hunters. Nah, Boba Fett's my boy.
Yeah.
Oh,
he goes out later.
I should have taken what we've not mentioned is the car crash at the end. Did you like the action there, Joe? And I should have taken photos of it.
Yeah, I thought it was an effective ending. That's for sure of the episode. Especially because I congratulate Homicide if they never did that cheesy thing of putting "to be continued" at the end of the episode. It was just cut to producer credit, which I like because it's like,
yeah, it's always better.
I understood why they did that with things like sitcoms because they're gonna be like, you actually need to watch next week instead of normally where you can watch the episodes out of order and it won't make any difference. But with a show like Homicide, it's completely unnecessary. So I'm glad that they don't do that, and so it works as an effective ending because we've seen some characters on Homicide that have died, that have been shot, that have left for various reasons. So something happens like that, you're like, oh man, is Lewis next? Is he gone? What's going to happen? So there's that added element of suspense of how this one's going to go. And we already, of course, had a history of Lewis driving badly. And so this is kind of like that other form of irony where he's not the one driving the car. It's actually Mike. So, for once, Lewis did not cause the accident.
I think that's...
So yeah. So you gave it an 8. I gave it an 8. Morgan gives it a pizza.
I give it a Lewis driving.
Morgan gives it a Lewis driving for an average of 8. Point Lewis driving, and unfortunately, huge spoiler here. The conclusion is not very satisfying next week, but that's my opinion. You might differ. I don't know. But anyway, join us next week for Wanted Dead or Alive Part 2.
Yep. Bye, folks.
Bye bye.